Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. The lock clicked softly, the sound amplified in the quiet hallway. Naruto entered his apartment, where the usual scent of dust and neglect was subtly transformed by a floral fragrance that was at once recognizable and strange. He suddenly snapped to attention, alert and on guard, sensing the presence of someone inside the room. With his katana gripped firmly in his hand, he stood poised and ready to defend himself against any unexpected attack, every instinct on high alert. It was night, the moon casting long, skeletal shadows across the cluttered room. He moved with the practiced silence of the ANBUand, his senses automatically scanning the space. His eyes landed on the futon in the corner. A figure lay there, curled on their side, their pink hair a startling splash of color against the worn gray blanket. Sakura. A jolt, sharp and unexpected, ran through him, a ghost of a feeling he thought he had buried deep. He froze, a statue carved from shadow and surprise. He didn't approach, didn't want to shatter the fragile stillness, didn't want to confront the unwelcome stirring within him. He simply observed, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, a fleeting echo of warmth, instantly extinguished by the icy cynicism he now wore like armor. He moved silently to the small, cramped bathroom, the ingrained ANBUand discipline overriding his shock. He stepped into the shower, feeling the warmth of the water enveloping him and gradually washing away the grit and blood that clung stubbornly to his torn and battered body. The soothing rush of water cascaded over him, gently rinsing away the remnants of the day's struggle, allowing a brief moment of reprieve from the physical pain and emotional turmoil. As the dirt and blood swirled down the drain, he felt a sense of release, if only temporary, as the weight of his weary limbs began to ease. As he toweled himself dry, his gaze fell upon a familiar garment draped over the back of a chair. A soft, green medical tunic. Sakura's. Her dresses hung neatly in the closet, giving the room a lived-in feel, as if it were her own home. She has been residing here for several days now, eagerly anticipating the moment when she will finally encounter Naruto. A knot tightened in his chest, a dull ache he hadn't anticipated. She is living here. For how long? Why? Don't fall for it. The cold voice in his head hissed, the voice of the ANBUand operative, the voice of self-preservation. She's a selfish bitch. She'll use you, manipulate you, and then discard you, just like before. He clung to the bitterness, the anger, a shield against the unwelcome tremor in his resolve. He moved with a detached efficiency, packing a small, utilitarian bag with the essentials for his long mission: concentrated nutrient bars, water purification tablets, a roll of specialized bandages, a set of dark, silent clothing. 2 years. The enormity of the time stretched before him, a vast, empty expanse, a chance to finally sever the remaining ties, to let the last vestiges of his old life wither and die in the desolate landscape of his absence. He glanced back at Sakura, still lost in the peaceful embrace of sleep. A stray strand of pink hair had fallen across her cheek, a delicate brushstroke against her pale skin. Almost against his will, his hand rose, hovering for a moment, trembling slightly, before gently brushing the strand away. A faint sigh escaped her lips, a soft, vulnerable sound that momentarily cracked the icy facade around his heart. He quickly retracted his hand, a surge of something akin to panic rising within him. His fingers instinctively moved to the diamond seal on his forehead, tracing its intricate lines, a stark reminder of the immense power she now wielded, a power that had demanded the sacrifice of her emotional core. He lingered for another agonizing moment, a silent sentinel in the dim light, before finally turning and slipping out of the apartment as quietly as he had entered. If he had stayed any longer, if he had allowed himself to truly look, he might have seen the faintest hint of a smile gracing her lips in her sleep, a subconscious echo of the unexpected comfort she found in his absent presence. Sakura awoke with a profound sense of tranquility she hadn't experienced in what felt like a lifetime. The oppressive weight that had clung to her since Naruto's departure had inexplicably lifted, replaced by a lightness that bordered on euphoria. She stretched languidly, a deep sense of well-being permeating her entire being. The small, cluttered apartment felt different this morning, imbued with a subtle, almost palpable energy. A sudden, sharp realization pierced the lingering fog of sleep. She sensed that something was different in the apartment. The atmosphere felt peculiar, as though an invisible tension hung in the air. As she made her way to the bathroom to freshen up, her attention was drawn to subtle details that seemed out of place, the faint traces of dirt that remained stubbornly on the floor, and the unsettling sight of a reddish hue, hinting at washed-away blood. These observations lingered in her mind, adding to the unsettling aura that enveloped the space. Naruto. Had he been here? A frantic energy surged through her. She had to know. She hastily made her way out of the apartment, her footsteps echoing swiftly as she navigated the hallway, her heart pounding with a chaotic mixture of hope and trepidation. She sprinted towards the Hokage Tower, the image of his sleeping face a fragile beacon in her desperate pursuit. Bursting into Tsunade's office, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her eyes wide and pleading, she blurted out, "Hokage-sama. Naruto, was he here last night?" Tsunade looked up, her expression a familiar tapestry of weariness and concern. She met Sakura's frantic gaze with a sigh. He was. Sakura. He returned briefly. A wave of relief, so potent it almost buckled her knees, washed over Sakura. He's here. Where is he? I need to see him. I need to. Her voice trailed off, choked with unshed tears and a desperate yearning. Tsunade's gaze softened, tinged with a regret Sakura had come to recognize as a constant shadow in the Hokage's eyes. He left again, Sakura. Just before sunrise. He's embarked on a long-term mission, almost 2 years. The fragile hope that had blossomed within Sakura withered and died, replaced by a crushing despair that sent her reeling. 2 years. 2 more years of silence, of absence, of Naruto further receding into the impenetrable darkness. The fleeting sense of peace she had experienced in his apartment now felt like a cruel illusion, a momentary reprieve before the full weight of her loss descended once more. She sank into a chair, the air in the Hokage's office suddenly thick and suffocating. 2 years, there will be nothing left of him by then. The chilling image of the cold, detached operative she had glimpsed flashed through her mind, magnified by the agonizing passage of time. In 2 years, that hardened shell might become his permanent reality, the last vestiges of the warm, vibrant Naruto she had known extinguished completely. A pure, emotionless killing machine. The thought was a terrifying premonition, a bleak vision of a future she had inadvertently helped to sculpt. Why? Hokage-sama. Sakura's voice was a raw plea, laced with a desperate anger that trembled on the edge of hysteria. Why would you allow him to take a mission like that? Don't you see what's happening to him? Tsunade sighed, the weight of her office and her responsibilities heavy on her shoulders. She met Sakura's distraught gaze with a weary resignation. I didn't assign him this mission, Sakura. Naruto left Team 7. He's no longer under my direct command in that capacity. He sought this out himself. He went to the Foundation. The revelation struck Sakura like a physical blow, the cold reality of Naruto's detachment sinking in with brutal force. The Foundation. Danzo's legacy, a shadowy organization operating outside the Hokage's direct jurisdiction, dealing in the darkest of Konoha's secrets. The Foundation, she whispered, her blood running cold. But, the ANBUand. Tsunade shook her head, her expression grim. The ANBUand has always had ties to the Foundation, Sakura. They operate independently, their missions shrouded in secrecy. I have limited authority over their assignments. She leaned forward, her voice laced with a frustrated helplessness. To be honest, Sakura, after Naruto left Team 7 and joined their ranks, his new team, under his command, they completed every high-risk assignment I had available with alarming speed and efficiency. They were too good. I was running out of missions challenging enough for them, missions that wouldn't put other, less experienced shinobi at undue risk. The Foundation, they offered him this long-term infiltration. It suited his unique skill set. The ANBU operatives are not subject to my direct oversight. Although I have the authority to assign them missions, they already have tasks predetermined by the Foundation. The process of them seeking my approval to depart the village is merely a formality. I lack the grounds to reject any missions unless justified by valid reasons, as personal feelings do not hold sway in a shinobi's disciplined existence. Tsunade's gaze was heavy with unspoken concern. He didn't consult me, Sakura. He simply informed me of his decision. By the time I learned the details, the arrangements were already made. I had little leverage to intervene. The unspoken truth hung heavy in the air. The Naruto she had known, the boy who had always sought her guidance, was gone, replaced by a self-sufficient, detached operative who made his own decisions in the shadows. The weight of that finality crashed down on Sakura, leaving her breathless and broken. 2 years. The words echoed in the quiet solitude of Naruto's apartment, a stark measure of the time stretching before her, a daunting expanse she had to navigate with a strength she wasn't sure she possessed. Yet, within these familiar, cluttered walls, Sakura found a strange resilience blooming. The lingering scent of Naruto, the childish drawings clinging to the refrigerator, the worn futon, they were anchors in the turbulent sea of her guilt and longing. She stayed, not out of a morbid fascination, but out of a deep-seated need to remain connected, however tenuously, to the boy she hoped would one day return. Life in Konoha continued, albeit with a subtle shift in its rhythm. The absence of Naruto's boisterous laughter left a quiet void, a subtle reminder of the light that had dimmed. Sakura threw herself into her work at the hospital with a fierce dedication. Her talent in the medical field blossomed, nurtured by her unwavering focus and her innate understanding of the human body. Her skills surpassed even the most seasoned medics, her diagnostic abilities becoming legendary. Whispers followed her through the sterile corridors. Soon, Sakura Haruno would ascend to the position of head medic of Konoha, a prodigy poised to eclipse even the legendary Tsunade. One crisp autumn afternoon, summoned to the Hokage's office for a strategic medical briefing, Sakura found herself face to face with Sasuke. It was their first direct encounter since the violent end of their tumultuous relationship. He stood by the window, his silhouette stark against the vibrant hues of the changing leaves, an air of detached observation surrounding him. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over Sakura, a flicker of the old longing, quickly followed by a sharp pang of guilt and a resolute sense of self-preservation. She took a steadying breath and spoke, her voice calm and measured. Sasuke, I wanted to apologize for my behavior that day. It was not how I should have acted. Sasuke turned, his dark eyes inscrutable. A ghost of his old smirk played on his lips. So, you finally realize the error of your ways, Sakura. Perhaps you now understand how to truly prove your affection for me. The thinly veiled innuendo sent a jolt of anger through Sakura, her fists clenching instinctively beneath the folds of her tunic. The arrogance, the unwavering belief in his own allure, still grated on her nerves. She fought to control the rising tide of her temper, the memory of Naruto's quiet pain a stark reminder of the consequences of impulsive actions. Sasuke took a step closer, his gaze dropping suggestively to her lips. Sakura's control snapped. Before he could utter another condescending word, Her fist shot out with the same surprising speed and precision she had displayed before. This time, instead of his nose, her knuckles connected squarely with his stomach. Sasuke doubled over with a strangled gasp, clutching his abdomen, the air knocked from his lungs. Sakura. What in the? I thought you loved me. What is this drama? He straightened, his eyes blazing with a mixture of pain and fury. Her body moving, doing those things on its own. Do you love me or not? The question hung heavy in the air, a stark demand for a clarity she no longer possessed. The past months, spent in the quiet contemplation of Naruto's absence and the slow unraveling of her own misguided affections, had blurred the lines of her heart. The intensity she had once felt for Sasuke now seemed like a distant, almost embarrassing memory. A wave of confusion and emotional exhaustion washed over her. The weight of her past choices, the uncertainty of her present feelings, the overwhelming guilt towards Naruto, it all coalesced into a raw, vulnerable admission. Tears welled in her emerald eyes, blurring her vision. I don't know, Sasuke. The words were a choked sob, a raw confession of her internal turmoil. Sasuke's expression hardened, his patience clearly at its breaking point. Make your decision, Sakura. I will be waiting for you at my house tonight. If you don't come, then it's over. Truly over. You ended things impulsively before. This time, I need a definitive answer. He turned sharply and walked towards the door, his retreating figure radiating an air of wounded pride and finality. Sakura stood frozen, the echo of his ultimatum hanging in the air. In the months since their breakup, fueled by her all-consuming guilt over Naruto, Sasuke had faded into the periphery of her thoughts. He had become a ghost of a past infatuation, a stark reminder of the emotional immaturity that had once defined her. Her mind drifted back to the quiet comfort of Naruto's apartment, the unexpected solace she found within its cluttered walls. It was a space where she could breathe, where the weight of her guilt felt somehow lighter, where the echoes of his warmth offered a strange sense of peace. Why does his absence feel so much more profound than Sasuke's presence ever did? Quote. The question resonated deep within her, a dawning realization that the true anchor of her heart had been elsewhere all along. The choice Sasuke demanded felt less like a pivotal decision and more like a reluctant acknowledgement of a truth that had been slowly revealing itself in the quiet solitude of another's abandoned home. Hidden in the labyrinthine alleys of Konoha, a clandestine conversation unfolded under the cloak of the night. Sasuke leaned against a weathered stone wall, the faint glow of a nearby lantern illuminating the sharp angles of his face. Beside him, Karen, her crimson hair a vibrant contrast to the darkness, watched him with a mixture of suspicion and a possessive concern. What in the world do you think you were doing in the Hokage's office with Sakura? Karen's voice was low, laced with a sharp edge of jealousy. That little display. The demand. It was foolish. Sasuke offered a dismissive wave of his hand, his gaze distant, as if already calculating his next move. Relax, Karen. Sakura is a stubborn, self-deluded fool. She clung to this ridiculous fantasy of loving me for far too long. I was merely expediting the inevitable. He turned to Karen, a rare hint of genuine warmth softening the harsh lines of his features. Besides, you know, Karen, my heart belongs only to you. He reached out, his fingers gently tracing the curve of her cheek, a silent reassurance. Karen's sharp gaze softened slightly under his touch, but a flicker of doubt still lingered in her eyes. But, the way you looked at her. The things you said. Sasuke sighed, a hint of weariness in his voice. I have the Sharingan, Karen. I see things others cannot. I saw her true feelings, the tangled mess of emotions she tries so hard to suppress. In her heart, there is only Naruto. I saw it at some point. I saw no place for me in her heart. Only some fantasy that have no real meanings. The way her gaze would always find Naruto, the underlying concern in her voice whenever he was in danger. I was simply too consumed by my own darkness to acknowledge it fully. A thoughtful frown creased his brow. I was late. Late to push her towards the truth she so desperately avoids. With Naruto gone now, perhaps the forced confrontation will finally break through her denial. He paused, a strange, almost detached look in his eyes, before turning to Karen, a revelation about to unfold. Naruto Uzumaki. He is your cousin, Karen. Karen's breath hitched, her eyes widening in stunned disbelief. The shadows of her isolated past seemed to coalesce around her, the weight of her lost clan pressing down. My cousin. The word was a mere whisper, a fragile tendril of a connection she had long believed severed. She had grown up an outcast, haunted by the remnants of her Uzumaki lineage, believing herself to be the last of their bloodline. Uzumaki, she repeated, the name resonating with a strange, unfamiliar warmth within her. The only blood, the only family I have left, a wave of emotion, a complex tapestry of shock, grief for the lost years, and a tentative flicker of hope, washed over her. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the harsh edges of the alleyway. My true relative, she murmured, her voice thick with a long-suppressed longing. Yes, not that close, but you share blood from your father's side. He said to Karen. Sasuke watched her, a rare hint of empathy in his dark gaze. He understood the weight of a lost heritage, the yearning for connection. I'm sure she won't come to meet me at my house tonight, Karen, he said, his voice softer now. She has found a strange comfort in his absence. She is living in Naruto's apartment, in his technically abandoned house. A wry smile touched his lips. Perhaps, in her own way, she is already seeking her truth. Karen's gaze drifted into the distance, her mind reeling from the unexpected revelation. A cousin, Naruto. The boisterous, unpredictable ninja she had often dismissed now held a significance she had never imagined. A strange sense of kinship, a protective instinct she hadn't known she possessed, began to stir within her. The pieces of the puzzle were shifting, the intricate web of their interconnected lives becoming clearer in the shadows of the Konoha night. The potential for a connection she had never dreamed of now lay before her, a fragile seed of hope in the desolate landscape of her past. As the last rays of the setting sun painted the sky in hues of bruised purple and fading orange, Sakura found herself still within the sterile confines of the hospital, the lingering scent of antiseptic a stark contrast to the quiet comfort she had found in Naruto's apartment. The weight of Sasuke's ultimatum pressed down on her, a demand for a decision her heart seemed stubbornly unwilling to make. Go to him. The thought flickered through her mind, a ghost of the old obligation. But it was met with a profound emptiness, a lack of any genuine yearning. Her heart, it seemed, now sought a different kind of solace, a different kind of connection. Later that evening, while making her rounds, Sakura entered a private room and found Hinata resting peacefully in bed, Kiba seated attentively by her side. Hinata had been unwell for a few days, a persistent viral infection weakening her usually vibrant spirit. Hinata, Sakura said softly, a gentle smile gracing her lips. How are you feeling tonight? Hinata offered a weak but genuine smile in return. Much better, Sakura. Thank you. Kiba stood up, his brow furrowed with concern. Is everything alright, Sakura? Yes, Kiba, Sakura reassured him. Just need to do a quick check-up on Hinata. Could you give us a moment? Kiba nodded understandingly, though a hint of reluctance lingered in his eyes. Of course. I'll be just outside. He cast a worried glance at Hinata before stepping out of the room. Sakura approached Hinata's bedside, her movements gentle and efficient. She performed a thorough examination, her skilled hands assessing Hinata's condition. The virus is still present, Sakura explained, her voice calm and reassuring. It will take some time to fully clear. The new medication regimen should help expedite the process, but you need to rest, Hinata. I know, Hinata murmured, a soft smile playing on her lips. But Kiba has been taking such good care of me. I haven't had to lift a finger. A faint blush dusted her cheeks. He's been very serious about me. Her voice held a quiet happiness that didn't go unnoticed by Sakura. A warmth spread through Sakura's chest, a genuine happiness for her friend. Serious, huh? She teased gently, a playful glint in her eyes. Are you two together? Hinata's smile widened, and Kiba had been hovering just outside the doorway. Hinata smiled. Yes, she answered, her voice filled with a quiet softness. For a long time now. She reached for Hinata's hand, her touch gentle. Sakura's gaze softened, a genuine happiness for their newfound connection filling her. But then, a question, unbidden but persistent, surfaced in her mind. What about your love for Naruto, Hinata? Hinata's smile faltered slightly, a shadow of a past longing flickering in her gentle lavender eyes. She looked at Kiba, who's still outside, a silent understanding passing between them, before turning back to Sakura. Oh, that, she paused, a faraway look in her eyes. Hinata's voice softened, tinged with a nostalgic melancholy. I went on a date, of sorts, with Naruto-kun, a long time ago. She hesitated, a faint blush returning to her cheeks. I confessed my feelings to him. My love. It was a lifetime moment for me. She paused again, a small, almost imperceptible sigh escaping her lips. He said no, Sakura. Her voice was quiet, accepting, devoid of any lingering bitterness. He said, I wouldn't be truly happy with him. Hinata's gaze drifted into the distance, lost in the memory. He was surprisingly insightful. He told me, if I thought deeply about it, he wasn't my true love. That my feelings for him were more of an admiration, a motivation. She paused, searching for the right words. He said, love wasn't just about a crush or admiration. That there was something more. A soft smile touched her lips. He was so earnest. He looked right at me and said, Hinata, I don't have any romantic feelings for you. Did I ever truly care for you, in that way? Did I ever do anything for you that wasn't out of friendship or a sense of duty? How could you be happy with someone who doesn't feel the same way? Naruto has observed the deep connection between Hinata and Kiba, noting that Kiba is always by her side, supporting her through every difficulty she faces. He can clearly see the unwavering affection and care in Kiba's eyes whenever he looks at Hinata. Naruto vividly recalls a particular mission when he joined Team 10 and Hinata sustained an injury to her leg. Kiba's concern for her was palpable as he gently attended to the injury, carefully wrapping her leg in bandages with a tenderness that spoke volumes about his feelings toward her. The camaraderie and understanding between Kiba and Hinata is tangible and undeniably strong. As Naruto listens to murmurs suggesting that Kiba might harbor romantic feelings for Hinata, he realizes that Kiba's situation bears some resemblance to his own experiences. In this scenario, Naruto sees himself as Sasuke, with Hinata playing the role of Sakura, and Kiba quietly suppressing his emotions for Hinata, fervently focusing on protecting her instead. However, Naruto is determined not to let this scenario unfold in the same way as his own story did, resolute in ensuring that the dynamics of these relationships remain balanced and unaffected by unrequited affection. Hinata's gaze became more focused, a hint of gratitude in her eyes. He then told me to look around myself. That I might see a person who was willingly trying to make me happy, who genuinely cared about me. She paused, a warmth spreading through her expression. He asked me, just think, Hinata, is there anyone around you who truly cares about you? Who feels the same pain when you are in pain? A soft blush bloomed on her cheeks as she met Sakura's gaze. And then, my heart, I don't know why, but his talks made me visible one name. Kiba, I said. He always stands beside me, in my pain. Hinata's eyes softened, filled with a deep affection. And Naruto-kun, he asked me, do you feel something for him, Hinata? A comfortable smile settled on her face. I told him, I feel comfortable and confident around him. Hinata's voice held a quiet wisdom. And Naruto-kun, he simply said, then why waste your time on someone who can't return your feelings? Besides, what I heard is that he was even willing to sacrifice his own feelings for you, because you were in love with me. Hinata was surprised to hear that. Kiba entered the room and stand beside Hinata. His gaze hentai and soft. Hinata looked at Sakura, her gentle eyes filled with a profound understanding. That day, Naruto-kun helped me realize what true love really is, Sakura. She reached for Kiba's hand again, her touch filled with a quiet certainty. Love, it's the comfort of your heart, Sakura. Not just some fancy desires. Hinata's words hung in the air, their simple truth striking a deep chord within Sakura. The comfort of your heart. The phrase echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the turbulent emotions that had defined her pursuit of Sasuke. Her gaze drifted involuntarily towards the image of Naruto that had become a permanent fixture in her thoughts. The quiet solace she found in his apartment, the unexpected peace that settled over her within its walls. Comfort. A wave of realization washed over Sakura, a slow, dawning understanding of the intricate tapestry of her own emotions. Her interactions with Naruto, the easy camaraderie, the unspoken understanding, the profound sense of loss she felt in his absence, and the stark emptiness she felt at the prospect of returning to Sasuke. Comfort. Her mind replayed the countless moments with Naruto, his unwavering support, his clumsy attempts to cheer her up, the quiet strength he had always offered. A warmth bloomed in her chest, a feeling so different from the anxious yearning she had always associated with Sasuke. Lost in her own swirling thoughts, Sakura barely registered Kiba's gentle squeeze on Hinata's hand, or the quiet understanding that passed between the two lovers. Hinata's words had planted a seed of doubt, a profound re-evaluation of everything Sakura thought she knew about love, about herself, and about the two men who had, in such different ways, shaped her life. The path ahead, once seemingly clear, now felt shrouded in a confusing mist of unspoken truths and dawning realizations. Sakura went to her medical office. She had no mental calmness to concert other patient. She seated in her chair. Thinking. Comfort. Hinata's single word hung in the sterile air of the hospital room, a simple utterance that resonated with the profound weight of unspoken truths. Love is all about comfort of your heart. The phrase echoed in Sakura's mind, a gentle hammer blow against the walls of her long-held illusions. Comfort. The word settled within her like a soft whisper, prompting a cascade of introspective questions. Who truly cares for me the most? Who feels my pain as their own? Whose presence brings a genuine, unwavering happiness, not just fleeting excitement? Who is my comfort? The question lingered, a beacon in the swirling fog of her confusion. Her mind drifted back, unbidden, to the early days of Team 7. Naruto, he gave me comfort from the very beginning, even if I was too blind to see it. The initial annoyance at his loudmouthed antics, his persistent, often clumsy attempts to gain her attention, they now seemed like the misguided fumblings of a heart that cared, a heart that saw something in her even when she was consumed by her obsession with Sasuke. Flashback. Genin days. Sakura-chan. Look, I finally learned a new jutsu. Naruto would yell, his voice booming through the training grounds, often disrupting her attempts to impress Sasuke with her control. She would scoff, rolling her eyes. It's just another shadow clone, Naruto. Honestly, you're so loud and disruptive. Yet, even as she chastised him, a small, almost imperceptible smile would tug at the corner of her lips at his unwavering enthusiasm. He never gave up, never seemed truly disheartened by her sharp rebukes. He was just there. A constant, energetic presence. Flashback. The forest of death. The chilling fear of Orochimaru's presence had gripped her, paralyzing her with terror. Sasuke was unconscious, and she was utterly alone, facing a monstrous enemy. Just as despair threatened to consume her, a blur of orange and blonde would appear. Sakura, are you alright? Don't worry, I'll protect you both. His voice, though still loud, held a fierce protectiveness that cut through her fear. He stood before her, small but resolute, facing an enemy that terrified even seasoned ninja. In that moment, a flicker of something beyond annoyance sparked within her, a nascent sense of security in his unwavering presence. Flashback. The Chunin exams finals. Gaara's terrifying transformation, the chaos and destruction, she had been frozen, useless, watching in horror. But she had heard that how he fight. Naruto, despite his own injuries after fighting Naji, despite the overwhelming odds, had fought with a ferocity born of desperation, all to protect his friends, to protect her. The raw determination in his blue eyes, the sheer force of his will, had been a stark contrast to her own helplessness. As he lay battered and bruised after the fight, a wave of guilt washed over her, mixed with a newfound respect for his unwavering courage. He had always been willing to fight for them, even when they didn't appreciate it. He was always there in my hard times. The memories flooded back, unbidden and vivid. Naruto, his hand outstretched, pulling her back from the brink of despair during the Sand Village invasion. Naruto, his quiet understanding and unwavering support after Sasuke's first departure. Naruto, his infectious optimism, somehow managing to bring a smile to her face even in the darkest of days. 100 questions bloomed in her mind, each one a delicate tendril reaching towards a single, undeniable truth. Who stayed by my side, no matter how cruel I was? Who celebrated my small victories as if they were his own? Whose spirit lifted mine, even in the darkest of times? The answer, stark and undeniable, resonated within her. It is Naruto. A pang of guilt, sharp and visceral, pierced through her burgeoning realization. So where is Sasuke's place in my heart? She searched, delving into the deepest recesses of her emotions, seeking the familiar ache of longing, the flutter of anticipation. But she found nothing. A hollow echo of a past infatuation, a ghost of a desire that had long since faded. The intensity she had once felt now seemed like a childish fantasy, a desperate yearning for something unattainable. That bastard, all he ever truly wanted was my body. The thought surfaced, raw and accusatory, fueled by the memory of his callous demands, his forceful touch. That night when Sasuke's dark eyes, devoid of warmth, his possessive grip on her arm, his expectation of intimacy as some sort of proof of her love, the memory sent a shiver of revulsion down her spine. Popping up from nowhere, expecting me to simply prove my love through intimacy. That's all it ever was for him. A wave of anger, hot and righteous, surged through her. If he hadn't forced himself on me that day, if he hadn't triggered that awful memory, I would have never slapped Naruto. The connection was stark, brutal. Her misguided loyalty to Sasuke had directly resulted in the pain she had inflicted on the one person who had consistently offered her genuine affection, a comfort she had foolishly mistaken for mere camaraderie. The weight of her blindness crashed down upon her, a crushing realization of the profound truth she had denied for so long. He loves me. The simple, undeniable fact resonated through her very being. Naruto, with his unwavering loyalty, his boundless compassion, his quiet strength, he loved her. And she, in her foolish pursuit of a shadow, had been utterly, devastatingly blind. Tears welled in her eyes, not tears of longing for Sasuke, but tears of profound regret, of a dawning, heart-wrenching understanding of the magnitude of her mistake. A blind fool. That's what I've been. How could she have denied such a pure, unwavering love? How could she have been so consumed by a superficial infatuation that she had failed to see the genuine warmth that had always surrounded her? The comfort of Naruto's apartment, the unexpected peace she found within its cluttered walls, now took on a new significance. It wasn't just a refuge from her guilt, it was a space imbued with his essence, a silent testament to the love she had so carelessly rejected. And the crushing weight of his absence was no longer just a consequence of her actions, but a stark reminder of the profound connection she had unknowingly severed, a connection that now felt like the most precious thing she had ever lost. The path ahead stretched before her, no longer a hesitant step towards a fading illusion, but a desperate, uphill battle to somehow, someday, earn back the trust and perhaps, just perhaps, the love of the boy who had always been her truest comfort. Sakura at night, still in deep thoughts, laying on Naruto's bed. Today she can't sleep. Her thoughts are getting heavy on her, not allowing sleep to get near her. After Naruto have departed from the village to undertake a long-term mission, leaving Sakura with no choice but to await his return. As days go by, Sakura occupies herself with her duties at the hospital. She attempts to return to her own home because it is deemed inappropriate to reside in another person's home during their absence. But she simply couldn't. After staying many days in Naruto's apartment, her own room felt strangely uncomfortable and suffocating, and her nightmares are returning. It seems she decided to stay at his apartment once more. Closing parenthesis. But now she have a perspective to think on this action again now. The realization struck Sakura with the force of a lightning bolt, illuminating the long-shadowed corners of her heart. The pieces clicked into place, each memory, each shared moment with Naruto, now imbued with a clarity she had been too blind to see before. It wasn't just comfort he offered, it was a deep, abiding connection, a silent understanding that resonated with the very core of her being. She was thinking for a definition for her actions. But all the definition are coming on the same: the truth, no matter which perspective she think, undeniable and profound, bloomed within her. She loved Naruto. It wasn't the frantic, desperate yearning she had mistaken for love with Sasuke. This was a quiet, steady warmth, a deep-seated affection that had grown unnoticed, nurtured by years of unwavering loyalty and selfless care. It was the comfort of coming home, the feeling of finally seeing the sun after a long, dark night. A wave of shame washed over her, a bitter acknowledgement of her past blindness. All those years she had dismissed his earnest attempts, her gaze fixed on a fleeting shadow while a radiant light shone beside her. Every small kindness he had shown, every clumsy attempt at affection, moments she had once brushed aside, now surfaced with a poignant clarity, each one a testament to a love she had so carelessly ignored. As he was trying to get asleep, her fingers instinctively went to her neck. Something was missing. A sudden memory surfacing from a long-forgotten mission in Sunagaku. They had been tasked with escorting a vital messenger, the desert winds whipping around them, the sun beating down mercilessly. One evening, as they rested beneath the sparse shade of a rocky outcrop, Naruto had presented her with a small, delicate necklace. It was a simple silver chain, but the pendant was exquisite, a meticulously crafted green flower, its petals delicate and lifelike. In the very center of the bloom, nestled like a precious gem, was a single, vibrant green jade bead. She remembered her initial polite but somewhat dismissive acceptance. It's pretty, Naruto. Thank you. But she was thinking how Naruto could pick something so beautiful and thoughtful. His explanation had held a shy earnestness that, in her preoccupation with Sasuke, she hadn't truly appreciated. It reminded me of your eyes, Sakura-chan, he had mumbled, a faint blush dusting his cheeks, his gaze earnest and unwavering. The green, it's so bright and strong, just like when you're healing someone. And the jade, it's right in the middle, like your eyes and kindness that are always at the heart of everything you do. She had tucked the necklace away in her pouch that day, another well-intentioned but ultimately uncherished gift from her often obnoxious teammate. It had remained there, unworn, forgotten amidst the clutter of kunai and medical supplies. Now, the memory resonated with a profound significance. His words, his shy admiration, the simple beauty of the gift, it was a tangible representation of his feelings, a heartfelt offering she had never truly valued. Sakura consistently wears that necklace with great passion, although Naruto remains unaware of it, as it is always hidden beneath her top. As per standard procedure, she had to remove all metal objects and ornaments as a precaution prior to undergoing a medical operation. She removed the necklace before her operation yesterday. Remembering that she left the bed. With trembling fingers, Sakura rummaged through the small box where she kept her few personal belongings in Naruto's apartment. There it was, nestled amongst discarded scrolls and spare kunai, the silver tarnished slightly, the green jade still vibrant. She carefully lifted the necklace, the delicate weight surprisingly comforting on her hand. As she clasped it around her neck, the cool metal against her skin sent a shiver of emotion through her. The green flower, nestled against her collarbone, felt like a tangible connection to him, a silent reminder of his unwavering affection. A wave of warmth washed over her, chasing away the cold knot of guilt that had resided in her chest for so long. The necklace, once a felt simple trinket, now felt like a precious treasure, a symbol of a love she had been too blind to see. It brought a sense of peace, a quiet happiness that had been absent from her life for far too long. It was a tangible piece of him, a reminder that even in his absence, a part of him had always been close to her. They are passing this way. The thought echoed in her mind, a sudden, intuitive certainty. He would return. He had to. And when he did, she would be ready. She would wear his gift, a visible testament to the love that now bloomed in her heart, a silent promise of the truth she was finally ready to embrace. The green of the flower, mirroring the depths of her own eyes, felt like a beacon, a silent call across the miles, a whispered promise of a love finally recognized, finally cherished. 18 months have passed, an eternity etched in the silent walls of Naruto's apartment. For Sakura, it had become a sanctuary, a space where his lingering presence offered a strange comfort amidst the gnawing ache of his absence. The village had moved on, life unfolding in its predictable rhythm, but for Sakura, time seemed to stretch and compress depending on the weight of her longing. Her dedication to her medical ninjutsu had propelled her to heights she had once only dreamed of. The weight of responsibility now rested heavily on her shoulders. She was the head medic of Konoha, a position that demanded unwavering focus and relentless dedication. The days blurred into a tireless cycle of diagnoses, surgeries, research, and the endless stream of shinobi requiring her expertise. Sleep became a luxury, often sacrificed at the altar of her demanding profession. The vibrant energy she once possessed was often leached away by exhaustion, leaving her with a quiet weariness that only the stillness of Naruto's apartment could temporarily soothe. One particularly grueling evening, after a marathon surgery that stretched well into the night, Sakura sank onto Naruto's worn futon, the familiar comfort a small balm to her frayed nerves. Her fingers instinctively went to the silver chain around her neck, a habit that had become as ingrained as breathing. The green flower, Naruto's heartfelt gift, was her constant companion, a tangible link to the boy who now occupied the deepest chambers of her heart. As her tired fingers traced the delicate petals, she felt a sharp, unfamiliar edge. With a jolt of unease, she pulled the necklace closer, her weary eyes focusing on the intricate craftsmanship. One of the small, delicate green petals of the flower, the ones that mirrored the vibrant hue of her own eyes, had broken off. It lay precariously attached by a mere thread of silver, threatening to detach completely with the slightest movement. A cold dread washed over Sakura, a primal fear that resonated with the superstitions she had grown up hearing. A broken gift, especially one with such personal significance, in the old beliefs, it was an ill omen, a harbinger of misfortune, a sign of a severed connection. Her heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden chill that gripped her. No, she thought fiercely, her mind racing with anxious possibilities. No, this can't be a sign. It's just wear and tear. 18 months, it's been a long time. But the rational part of her mind warred with the deep-seated fear that gnawed at her. The necklace was more than just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of Naruto's affection, a tangible representation of her own belated love. Its breaking felt like a physical manifestation of her deepest fear, that something terrible had happened to him, that the fragile thread connecting them had finally snapped. The exhaustion that had clung to her moments before vanished, replaced by a frantic energy fueled by anxiety. She couldn't stay here, trapped by her fear and the ominous symbolism of the broken bloom. She needed reassurance, a voice of reason to quell the rising tide of panic within her. Without a second thought, Sakura found herself racing towards the Hokage Tower, the familiar path now imbued with a desperate urgency. The late-night quiet of the village seemed to amplify her fears, every rustle of leaves, every shadow stretching long in the moonlight, a potential harbinger of bad news. She burst into Tsunade's office, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her eyes wide with a raw fear that startled the usually unflappable Hokage. Tsunade, hunched over a stack of mission reports, looked up, her brow furrowing with concern at Sakura's distressed appearance. Sakura, what is it? What's wrong? Tsunade's voice was sharp, immediately sensing the depth of Sakura's distress. Sakura held out the necklace, her hand trembling. Master, the necklace, it broke. Her voice was barely a whisper, thick with unshed tears and a fear that choked her words. Tsunade took the delicate silver chain, her experienced eyes examining the broken petal. She saw the raw emotion etched on Sakura's face, the genuine terror that gripped her. A wave of understanding washed over the Hokage. She knew the significance of the necklace, the silent vigil Sakura had kept, the fragile hope she clung to. She kept seeing Sakura took off the necklace every time before any operations. She simply asked Sakura and Sakura told her all about. Tsunade placed a reassuring hand on Sakura's trembling shoulder, her gaze firm and steady. Sakura, she said, her voice calm and authoritative, cutting through the younger woman's panic. Listen to me. It's just a necklace. Metal can fatigue, delicate pieces can break. It doesn't mean anything bad has happened. She took a deep breath, her gaze softening slightly. I know how much this necklace means to you, Sakura. I know how worried you are about Naruto. But you cannot let superstition and fear consume you. He is strong, Sakura. Resilient. He has faced dangers far greater than a broken piece of jewelry. Tsunade's words, spoken with the weight of her experience and authority, began to chip away at Sakura's panic. She looked at her master, her breath still coming in shallow gasps, but a flicker of reason returning to her emerald eyes. But, the timing, Sakura whispered, the fear still clinging to her like a shadow. Tsunade squeezed her shoulder gently. There is no timing, Sakura. It's a coincidence. Focus on what you know, on the strength Naruto possesses. Don't let fear cloud your judgment. We haven't heard anything negative. Until then, you need to remain strong, for yourself and for when he returns. Sakura clutched the broken necklace in her hand, Tsunade's words a fragile anchor in the storm of her anxiety. The fear didn't vanish entirely, but a sliver of hope, bolstered by her master's assurance, began to flicker within her. She nodded slowly, taking a deep, shaky breath. You're right, master. You're right. It's just a necklace. But the worry, the deep-seated unease, lingered, a quiet whisper in the back of her mind, a fragile bloom now bearing the mark of potential loss. Days crawled by, each one a testament to Sakura's forced resolve. The broken petal of the necklace remained tucked safely in a small pouch, a tangible reminder of her lingering unease, a silent worry she tried to suppress beneath the demanding weight of her responsibilities as head medic. It had been nearly 3 years since Sakura last saw Naruto, and time, as it often does, had worked its gentle magic on her. The spirited kunoichi who once chased after a certain emotionless Uchiha had blossomed into a truly stunning woman. Gone was the youthful awkwardness of her teenage years, replaced by the graceful confidence of a mature woman. Naturally, with her newfound elegance and impressive medical ninja skills, Sakura was quite the catch. It seemed like some eligible shinobi in Konoha, and even some from neighboring villages passing through, found an excuse to approach her. There was always Lee, with his boisterous charm, inviting her to ramen. Then unexpectedly there was the perpetually serious Shino, who, in his own quiet way, would suggest a stroll through the insect garden. No one ever thought that Shino would show interest in her. Even some of the older, more established, like the suave Genma Shiranui with his, or the calm and collected Iwashi Tatami, would try their luck, offering to take her to a quiet tea house. But no matter who approached her, Sakura would always decline, her refusal delivered with a gentle smile and unwavering politeness. Her heart had long since settled its turbulent desires. She had learned from past mistakes, understood the true depths of her own feelings, and was no longer willing to lead anyone on or involve herself in anything that wasn't genuinely right for her. She knew exactly what her heart truly wanted, and until then, she was content to wait. Even as Sakura patiently waited, a silent worry always gnawed at her. What if, during his long absence, Naruto found someone else? 3 years was a significant amount of time, especially for someone like Naruto, who had a knack for connecting with people and has a vast network now. Besides that he was famous as a war hero. The thought that he might have found love or a girlfriend in a distant land, building a new life and new bonds far away from Konoha, was a quiet fear she carried. It was a natural concern, given the circumstances, and it added a layer of uncertainty to her steadfast vigil. One crisp morning, as Sakura reviewed patient charts in her newly established office within the Konoha Hospital's administrative wing, a frantic messenger burst through the door, his face pale and etched with urgency. Hokage-sama requires your presence immediately, head medic Haruno. It's an emergency, he stammered, his voice trembling. Sakura's heart clenched. An emergency requiring the Hokage's immediate attention, especially one involving her medical expertise, could only mean something dire. She followed the messenger, her mind racing through a litany of potential disasters. Tsunade's office was a whirlwind of hushed activity. Shizune stood beside her, and Ino was already there too. Their expression grave, while a harried-looking official from the land of fire knelt before the Hokage, his voice strained with desperation as he recounted a terrifying tale. Lady Hokage, the official pleaded, his hands clasped tightly, we are begging for your assistance. The land of flowers, I've been struck by a terrible illness. We've quarantined the entire village, but it's spreading rapidly. People are falling sick day by day, and more are dying each day. His voice broke, thick with grief and fear. Tsunade's brow was furrowed in deep concern. The Land of Flowers, a secluded but significant village nestled within the vast territory of the Land of Fire, was renowned for its breathtaking beauty and its unique, potent medicinal herbs. It is a peaceful place, largely untouched by the constant conflicts that plague the ninja world. For such a calamity to strike. Describe the illness, Sakura interjected, her medical instincts kicking in, her mind already cataloging potential pathogens. The official wrung his hands. It begins with a high fever, followed by a debilitating cough, then the skin develops these strange, discolored lesions. Breathing becomes difficult, and for some, it ends with them not waking up. He shuddered, the image clearly vivid in his mind. Our local healers are overwhelmed. Their remedies have no effect. We fear the entire village will be lost. Tsunade's gaze was grim. This sounds serious. Sakura, Ino, she addressed her two most trusted medics, who had joined Sakura in the office, their faces mirroring her concern. You will accompany a team to the Land of Flowers immediately. We need to understand this illness, identify its cause, and develop a treatment. Ino stepped forward, her expression determined. We're ready, Lady Hokage. Just tell us who else will be joining us. Kakashi will lead the team, Tsunade announced, her gaze shifting to the ever-present Jonin, who stood silently by the window, his visible eyes sharp and assessing. His intelligence gathering and strategic skills will be crucial in navigating the situation. Lee and Kiba will provide the necessary combat expertise and protection. Both arrived at the office and learned everything. Rock Lee, ever enthusiastic, pumped his fist. We will bring the power of youth and unwavering determination to aid these afflicted people, Lady Tsunade. Kiba nodded, Akamaru barking his agreement. We'll sniff out any trouble and protect our medics. You can count on us. Sakura, however, felt a knot of unease tighten in her stomach. The Land of Flowers was a significant village, and a widespread illness of this nature suggested a potentially complex and dangerous situation. Lady Hokage, she began cautiously, with all due respect, a team of 5, will that be enough manpower to effectively manage an entire village under lockdown? Tsunade sighed, a hint of frustration in her voice. I am acutely aware of our limitations, Sakura. Our forces are still stretched thin from the aftermath of the war. However, she paused, a thoughtful look crossing her face. I have anticipated this. Given the potential scale of this crisis, I have already contacted other resources. She steepled her fingers, her gaze holding a hint of secrecy. We are lacking the necessary manpower for widespread support. I cannot afford to send more medics because I'm already sending you and Ino, best medics we have. If we send more of our medic, it will be hard to handle here. Therefore, I have made a direct request and secured the assistance of a specialized ANBUand team. The Foundation has approved our request. An ANBUand team will be arriving there soon. They were returning from a mission and their path will intersect with yours shortly after you reach the Land of Flowers. Ino's eyes widened. ANBUand, Lady Hokage, you're calling in the Black Ops for a medical mission. Tsunade nodded, better than nothing. Her expression was serious. Their skills extend beyond combat, Ino. They are highly trained in infiltration, containment, and discreet support operations. Their presence will be invaluable in managing the lockdown and ensuring the safety of our medical personnel. A shiver ran down Sakura's spine. The ANBUand. Their movements were shrouded in secrecy, their identities often masked. The thought of working alongside them, these silent, lethal operatives, was both intriguing and unsettling. Their arrival time, Kakashi inquired, his voice calm and measured. Kakashi, being an ex-ANBUand, has some links in the Foundation. He is being thoughtful. They should make contact within the same day or one after your arrival in the Land of Flowers, Tsunade replied. Their mission was extensive, but they are on their way back. Their expertise will be a much needed asset. The Foundation will not give Tsunade much information about their missions or operatives. 3 months prior to the approximate return of Naruto's team, a subtle tension filled the office. The mention of the ANBUand team hung in the air, an unspoken question mark. Sakura couldn't shake the feeling, a faint stirring in the depths of her intuition. A returning ANBUand team, a long mission, a return path intersecting their own, could it be? She pushed the thought away, labeling it as wishful thinking, a desperate yearning coloring her perception. The ANBUand operated in the shadows, their identities and missions closely guarded secrets. The chances of it being Naruto's team were slim, almost non-existent. Yet, a tiny ember of hope flickered within her, refusing to be completely extinguished. All right, Kakashi said, his visible eye scanning the team. Let's prepare for immediate departure. Sakura, Ino, gather your medical supplies. Lee, Kiba, be ready for any hostiles we might encounter. We move out within the hour. As the team dispersed to prepare, Sakura's mind remained preoccupied. The broken petal in her pouch felt heavier now, a tangible weight of both fear and a fragile, unspoken hope. The shadowed aid heading towards the Land of Flowers, a sliver of possibility, however remote, that perhaps, just perhaps, fate was finally intervening. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the urgent task at hand, the suffering in the Land of Flowers demanding her full attention. But the seed of anticipation had been planted, a silent whisper in the back of her mind, a fragile bloom of hope amidst the impending pestilence. Sakura packed in a hurry. She has lots of things to pack. She changed quickly, and put some clothes in her bags. Then left for the hospital to join others. They have to pack other medical supplies for their mission. After all the preparation was done, the group trotted along the path towards the Land of Flowers. Even though their job was serious, they tried to keep things light. Kakashi, his eyes peeking out, looked around like a worried dad on a school trip. The trees were so tall, they tickled the sky, and the sun played peek-a-boo through the leaves. It smelled like dirt and a million tiny bugs having a party. Lee, bouncing like a green rubber ball, shouted, "We shall run with the speed of 1,000 blooming lotuses to save these people." He then tripped over a root and almost face-planted. Kiba snickered, Akamaru yipping beside him. More like the speed of a dizzy snail, Lee. Akamaru then tried to chase a butterfly bigger than his head and got tangled in some vines. Sakura and Ino walked together, trying to act like the grown-ups. So, this, boo-boo, everyone has? Ino asked, wrinkling her nose like she smelled something stinky. Is it gonna mess up my hair? Sakura rolled her eyes. Ino, people are sick. And no, I don't think a fever will give you a bad hair day. She then patted her own perfectly styled hair, just in case. She also sneakily touched the little bag with her broken necklace, trying not to look worried. She is feeling worried since the day necklace broken. Well, you never know. Ino said, flipping her blonde ponytail. Maybe it makes your hair fall out in weird clumps. Then I'd have to shave it all off and go bald like that grumpy monk we saw last time. Kiba howled with laughter. Bald Ino. Now that's a scary thought. Akamaru barked like he was laughing too. Kakashi sighed and looked back at the team. All right, settle down, you three. We need to pay attention. He then walked straight into a low-hanging branch. Lee pointed and yelled, Kakashi-sensei. Even the most skilled ninja can be defeated by the mighty tree branch of surprise. Their journey went for 2 days. Many small events occurred in the meantime. But they were always on their track. having rest at some point and quickly getting on their feet and moving for the destination. As they walked, the trees opened up to big, colorful fields. Flowers of every color you could imagine danced in the breeze. It smelled so sweet, it almost made you forget why they were there. Little streams giggled as they ran over rocks, and birds sang like they were in a Disney movie. Then they reached the top of a hill, and the village hidden in flowers came into view. It looked like someone had dropped a bunch of colorful toy houses in a green bowl. But something was wrong. It was too quiet. There was no smoke coming from the chimneys, no people walking around. It was like the village was taking a very, very long nap. The big gates were closed tight, and a few people wearing funny-looking masks stood guard, looking sad and tired. The happy, flowery air suddenly felt heavy and still. Kakashi's eyes narrowed. He can sense that something's not right. As they got closer to the gates, a guy in a mask walked slowly towards them. His eyes looked scared and his voice was muffled. You're the healers from Konoha. Sakura stepped forward, her smile gone, her face serious. Yes. We're here to help. We are assigned by Konoha's authority for the task. The pretty flowers and the quiet village didn't seem so funny anymore. This was serious. They were handed strange-looking masks that covered their mouths and noses, along with thin gloves that felt a bit like fishnets. Wear these at all times, a tired-looking guard mumbled, his voice muffled behind his own mask. It might help. A man with kind eyes and worry lines etched deep into his face approached them. Welcome, he said, his voice heavy. I am Hamas, the village leader. We are grateful you have come. He gestured weakly towards the silent village. We have arranged rooms for you at the Blossom Inn. It is the cleanest place we have left. Without wasting any time, Sakura, with Ino and the others close behind, asked to be taken to the village hospital. Hamas personally escorts them to the hospital. He is worried for his people that can be seen in his face. The scene that greeted them in the hospital was overwhelming. The air was thick with the sounds of coughing and labored breathing. Every bed was occupied, and many more patients lay on makeshift cots in the hallways. The usual bustling energy of a hospital was replaced by a heavy, despairing silence, punctuated only by the sounds of suffering. Sakura's heart sank. Even the doctors and nurses were among the sick, their faces pale and drawn, some lying on cots themselves, too weak to tend to others. The sheer scale of the illness was terrifying. Ino, come with me, Sakura said, her voice firm despite the tremor of anxiety she felt. We need to find a research area, somewhere we can examine the patients and try to understand what we're dealing with. While Kakashi, Lee, and Kiba began to the situation and offer what immediate aid they could, guiding the few remaining able-bodied staff, Sakura and Ino navigated the crowded hallways, their medical instincts on high alert. They finally found a small, cluttered room that had likely served as a storage space. Clearing a table, Sakura began examining the patients, her skilled hands quickly assessing their symptoms. Ino assisted, her sensory abilities proving invaluable in detecting subtle changes in their chakra flow. Hours passed in a blur of examinations and observations. Sakura, her brow furrowed in concentration, finally stepped back, a grim understanding dawning in her eyes. This is unlike anything I've encountered before, she murmured, more to herself than to Ino. What is it, Sakura? Ino asked, her voice laced with concern. Sakura's gaze was distant, her mind racing. I believe this is a virus that somehow interacts with chakra. It seems to almost feed on it, slowly weakening the patient by depleting their life force. The lack of chakra then leads to the other symptoms, the fever, the lesions, and eventually, death. A virus that lives on chakra. Ino repeated, her voice incredulous. That's Unheard of. It has to be, Sakura said, her expression grave. The way it progresses, the way it weakens the very source of their life energy, it fits. This is something new, something incredibly dangerous. Time was of the essence. Ino, Sakura said urgently, I need you to help me gather samples, blood, tissue, anything we can get. I'm sending a sample of this virus to Konoha immediately. We need Tsunade Shisho and the other medical experts to analyze this. We need answers, and we need them fast. The weight of the village's survival rested heavily on their shoulders. With the urgent message and the precious viral sample on their way to Konoha, Sakura knew they couldn't afford to wait for answers. Time was a luxury the dying villagers didn't have. Her mind raced, trying to pinpoint the origin of this bizarre, chakra-leaching illness. The water source, she murmured, pacing the small research room, Ino watching her intently. That's always a primary suspect in outbreaks like this. Could be contaminated somehow, Ino agreed, her sensory perception scanning the air as if she could somehow detect the invisible pathogen. Sakura continued her train of thought. Then there's the agricultural farms. Could some new pesticide or fertilizer have triggered a mutation? Or perhaps a disease in the crops themselves? And the animals, Ino added, a worried frown creasing her brow. Livestock could be carriers, even if they don't show symptoms themselves. Sakura stopped pacing, her gaze firm. We need to investigate all of these possibilities. Methodically. If we can find the source, we might be able to contain the spread and develop a more targeted treatment. Right, Ino said, her usual flippancy replaced by a focused determination. Water, crops, animals. We'll split up if we need to, but it's probably best to start with the most likely culprit, the water. Sakura nodded in agreement. I need to speak with Hamas, the village leader. Get his insight on these areas and secure easy access for our investigation. Leaving Ino to continue preparing more treatment supplies based on their initial findings, Sakura made her way to the village center, where Hamas was trying to coordinate the dwindling number of healthy villagers. He looked even more weary than before, the weight of his responsibility evident in every line of his face. Hamas-san, Sakura began, her voice carrying a note of urgency. We're trying to determine the source of this illness. I have a few questions about the village's resources. Hamas nodded, his gaze hopeful. Anything, Haruno-san. We will cooperate fully. Sakura listed her concerns. The main water source, the locations of the agricultural farms, and any animal husbandry within the village. Hamas provided detailed information, his brow furrowing as he considered each possibility. Then, a shadow crossed his face, a new layer of worry adding to his already burdened expression. There is something else, he said, his voice low. In the early days of the lockdown, before we managed to secure the perimeter, there were bandits. Sakura's eyes narrowed. Bandits. What happened? They saw our village was weakened, vulnerable, Hamas explained, his voice tinged with shame. They tried to raid our supplies, to take what little we had left. We managed to fight them off, but they might have contaminated something in the process. They were desperate. A new, chilling possibility settled in Sakura's mind. Sabotage. Intentional contamination. It added another layer of complexity to their already daunting task. Hamas-san, Sakura said, her voice firm. We need to investigate these areas, the water source, the farms, the animal pens, but now, we also need to consider where these bandits might have been. We need to secure these locations and ensure no further contamination occurs. Hamas nodded grimly. I understand. What do you need? I need you to provide us with guides who know these areas well, Sakura replied. And I need the full strength of our team. We will investigate each of these potential sources, one by one. Kakashi-sensei's intelligence, Lee and Kiba's combat skills, we need to be prepared for anything. The beautiful land of flowers held a dark secret, and Sakura was determined to uncover it, whatever the cost. It is late now, Haruno-san, Hama said, his weariness painting shadows under his kind eyes. The sun has already begun its slow descent, draping the valley in hues of amber and violet. The guides I can spare are bone-tired, their energy spent tending to the afflicted and guarding what little hope remains. Allow me to organize everything with fresh hands by tomorrow's first light. You and your team should seek rest at the Blossom Inn. Conserve your strength for the tasks that await. Sakura's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Every tick of the clock felt like a life slipping away. But she saw the genuine exhaustion etched onto Hamisa's face, the sheer effort he was exerting despite the crushing weight of his village's suffering. A forced patience settled over her. Understood, Hama-san, she conceded, a knot of frustrated urgency twisting in her stomach. We will return to the inn. But please, ensure everything is prepared for us at the break of dawn. Back in the sterile quiet of their rooms at the Blossom Inn, sleep remained a distant, elusive friend for Sakura. The silence amplified the gnawing anxiety, the unseen enemy in the air a constant, chilling presence. The broken petal of the necklace felt like a physical weight in her pouch, a tangible manifestation of her growing unease. The nightmares returned, each one a fresh torment, Naruto's face contorted in pain, his voice a silent accusation, the chilling image of him dissolving into a cloud of smoke. She thrashed in the narrow bed, the familiar comfort of his absent presence in his apartment a cruel taunt from a distant memory. It has been almost 3 years and she is still suffering from that incident. She was twisting and tossing on bed. Finally, she sat bolt upright, her heart hammering against her ribs and she was huffing. A desperate need for connection, however fragile, overwhelmed her. Reaching into her pouch, her fingers closed around the broken necklace. The cool silver felt strangely grounding against her skin as she clasped it around her neck, the fractured green flower resting like a fragile promise against her collarbone. It was irrational, she knew, a desperate clutching at a symbolic thread. Yet, somehow, wearing it, even broken, offered a sliver of the familiar comfort, a silent whisper of reassurance in the encroaching darkness. Exhaustion eventually claimed her, dragging her into a restless sleep haunted by fragmented dreams. The morning light painted the sky in soft strokes of rose and gold. True to his word, Hamas had arranged for their guides. Ren, a young farmer with calloused hands and a deep knowledge of the land, would lead them to the agricultural fields. Hannah, an elderly woman whose weathered face held the wisdom of generations, would guide them to the village's life-giving spring. Their first destination was the water source. Hannah, her eyes clouded with a deep sorrow, led them through a winding path, the air growing cooler and damper as they neared the spring. It emerged from the earth in a small, moss-covered grotto, the water bubbling forth with an illusion of pristine purity. This water, it has been the lifeblood of our village for centuries, Hannah said, her voice trembling like the leaves in the gentle morning breeze as Sakura carefully collected samples in sterile vials. My children drank from this spring, and their children after them. What malevolent spirit has poisoned our very source of life? We will find answers, Hana-san, Sakura promised, her voice firm, a shield against the old woman's despair. We will analyze these samples with the utmost care. Ren then guided them towards the sprawling agricultural fields, where rows upon rows of crops swayed gently in the morning light. The plants appeared healthy, their leaves a vibrant green, but Sakura's medical instincts detected a subtle wrongness, an unnatural stillness beneath the surface vitality. She meticulously gathered soil and leaf samples, her brow furrowed in thought. The harvest has been bountiful this year, Ren said, his gaze sweeping over the fields with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. We have followed the same methods as our ancestors. No new chemicals, no strange seeds. This illness, it has come from nowhere. Their final destination, the animal farms, lay a little further afield, nestled in a secluded valley beyond a stretch of whispering woods. The path narrowed, winding deeper into the trees, the air filled with the distant sounds of bleating sheep and lowing cattle. They were halfway to the farms, the sunlight filtering through the leaves in dappled patterns, when the silence shattered. A guttural cry ripped through the peaceful morning air, followed by the sharp clang of metal against metal. Figures seemed to erupt from the very shadows of the trees, their movements fluid and predatory, their faces hidden behind crude masks. Bandits. Hamise's warning, now a chilling premonition, echoed in Sakura's mind. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura yelled, her hand instinctively reaching for her medical kunai, her senses on high alert. Kakashi's Sharingan eyes blazed to life, those crimson tomos spinning like malevolent stars. Stay behind me. His voice was a low growl. Kakashi now have both eye Sharingan, a gift from Obito. Lee and Kiba surged forward, their stances radiating raw power. We will not allow these villains to harm you. Lee roared, his fists already a blur. Akamaru's growl deepened into a ferocious bark, his teeth bared in a silent threat. Ren. Hana. Get back. Ino shouted, a defensive stance forming, her sensory perception already mapping the positions of their attackers. The idyllic beauty of the land of flowers had been brutally ripped away, revealing a hidden underbelly of desperation and violence. The fight for answers, and now for their very survival, had begun. The air crackled with tension, the peaceful woods transformed into a potential battleground. The tranquility of the woods shattered into a cacophony of steel and shouts. 30 figures, their movements honed with a brutal efficiency that spoke of seasoned rough ninja, erupted from the dense undergrowth. Each one moved with a calculated aggression, their eyes glinting with avarice. S-level threats, Kakashi's mind registered instantly, a formidable force. Lee. Kiba. Front line. Kakashi barked, his Sharingan already a whirlwind of crimson. He moved with his signature lightning-fast precision, deflecting a flurry of shuriken aimed at Sakura and Ino. Lee, a blur of green, launched himself into the fray, his fists a whirlwind of focused fury. The power of youth shall crush your wicked intentions. He roared, his taijutsu a relentless assault of rapid strikes and powerful kicks, sending bandits flying through the air like ragdolls. Kiba, with Akamaru a snarling extension of his will, weaved through the chaos, their synchronized attacks a brutal dance. Fang over fang tore through the enemy ranks, leaving trails of dust and groans in its wake. Akamaru's powerful jaws snapped, disarming and incapacitating those who dared to get too close to Sakura and Ino. Sakura, her medical kunai flashing with deadly precision, moved with a controlled ferocity that belied her usual calm demeanor. Each strike targeted vital points, incapacitating her attackers swiftly and efficiently. Her movements were fluid, a deadly ballet of precision and power. Ino, her hands glowing with chakra, focused on protecting Hana and Ren, who huddled behind a thick oak tree, their faces pale with terror. Mind transfer jutsu allowed her to momentarily disrupt the attacks aimed at them, buying precious seconds for her teammates. Despite the initial onslaught, Kakashi's well-coordinated team began to gain the upper hand. Lee's relentless assault, Kiba and Akamaru's ferocious synergy, and Sakura's deadly precision were carving a path through the bandit ranks. Kakashi, his Sharingan anticipating every move, neutralized the more skilled attackers with swift, decisive strikes. Just as victory seemed within their grasp, a figure emerged from the back of the bandit ranks. He was taller, his build more imposing, a menacing aura radiating from him. His eyes held a cold, calculating intelligence that marked him as the leader. A dangerous smirk played on his lips. Impressive. The leader's voice was a low, chilling drawl. But this little game ends now. His hands weaved through a series of rapid seals. Paralysis jutsu. Serpent's coil. A wave of invisible energy erupted from the leader, snaking through the battlefield. Kakashi, his Sharingan whirring, recognized the dangerous jutsu instantly. Move. It's a paralysis technique. He yelled a warning, but the jutsu was too fast, too widespread. Lee stumbled, his movements suddenly sluggish. Kiba's snarl turned into a frustrated growl as his limbs began to stiffen. Even Kakashi felt a creeping numbness spreading through his body, his movements becoming heavy and unresponsive. Sakura, caught off guard, found her muscles locking, her kunai clattering to the ground. Ino gasped, her control over her mind transfer wavering. They were cornered, their superior fighting skills rendered useless by the insidious paralysis. The remaining bandits, sensing their advantage, pressed their attack with renewed vigor, their earlier fear replaced by a cruel confidence. They are getting close. No way to escape. Just as a hulking bandit lunged towards Sakura, a blur of black descended from the trees. 3 figures, clad in dark, silent clothing and ash-gray vests, their faces obscured by intricately carved animal masks, landed with a soft thud. The air around them crackled with an unseen energy. Code. Falcon, the first figure, a hawk mask concealing their features, spoke in a low, controlled voice. Code. Serpent, the second figure, a sinuous snake mask hiding their identity, moved with a fluid grace. Code. Wolf, the third figure, a fierce wolf mask staring out from the shadows, landed beside them, their voice a low growl. Fight back. All 3 spoke in unison, their presence radiating an aura of lethal efficiency. The ANBU had arrived. The ANBU moved with a terrifying grace, a silent storm of black and gray. They were brave, throwing themselves into the fray with a calculated recklessness that spoke of unwavering discipline. Sakura's breath caught in her throat as she watched them. The way the first one moved, the set of their shoulders, a desperate tendril of hope through her fear. Could it be? Her eyes darted from one masked figure to another, searching for any familiar tell, any subtle mannerism that might betray the presence of the one she longed for. The way one held their katana, the almost feral intensity in their movements, she grasped at straws, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. Their fighting style was like a deadly dance, a whirlwind of precise strikes and evasive maneuvers. They moved as one, a coordinated unit dismantling the remaining bandits with chilling efficiency. The tide of the battle began to turn once more, the ANBU's skill and ferocity pushing back the surprised rough ninja. But then, the air shimmered, and the same insidious wave of paralysis washed over the battlefield. The rough ninja leader, a cruel smirk twisting his lips, had unleashed his serpent's coil jutsu again. The ANBU, despite their agility, were caught off guard, their movements stuttering, their bodies stiffening. One by one, they too succumbed to the creeping paralysis, their fluid movements becoming jerky and unresponsive. Silence descended, broken only by the ragged breaths of the trapped Konoha ninja and the triumphant sneers of the remaining bandits. Kakashi, his Sharingan still blazing uselessly, cursed under his breath. Lee strained against his frozen limbs, his youthful vigor trapped in a paralyzed cage. Kiba growled in frustration, Akamaru whimpering beside him, equally helpless. The rough ninja leader stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over his paralyzed prey. Well, he drawled, his voice laced with a cruel satisfaction. It seems even the famed copy ninja and the Hokage's precious medics are not immune. He paused, a sinister glint in his eyes. My name is Kaya. No need to remember it, cause it will be the last name you hear. He began to move amongst them, his gaze lingering on each trapped figure, a predator relishing his power. Then, his eyes landed on Ino and Sakura. A leering grin spread across his face as he took in her frozen form, his gaze lingering on the curves of Sakura's body. Ah, he purred, his voice dripping with a vile intent. The pink-haired little flower. Don't you worry, I won't kill you, not until I've had my fun. He took a step closer, his presence suffocating. A rough hand reached out, brushing against her cheek, then sliding down her neck, his touch leaving a trail of icy disgust. He leaned in, his breath hot and foul against her ear. Your beautiful body will be good to play with, little flower. His hand moved lower, his touch becoming increasingly invasive. I would love to have strawberry milkshake. It was not unseen where Kaya's hand was headed. What he indicated by milkshake was a blatant violation in the silent, horrified gaze of her teammates. Every muscle in Sakura's body screamed, yet she was utterly paralyzed, a cruel puppet strung up for display. Her teammates, frozen just like her, watched with wide, helpless eyes, their own silent anguish mirroring hers. Kaya's touch, a vile intrusion, crept over her, each brush of his fingers a fresh wave of humiliation. She could feel the heat rising in her face, not from anger alone, but from the searing shame of being violated so openly, so cruelly, in front of everyone she knew, everyone she had fought alongside. A choked sound, half gasp, half sob, caught in her throat. The world seemed to shrink to Kaya's sneering face and the repulsive sensation of his hand. Her mind raced, a torrent of desperate thoughts. Why can't I move? Why can't I fight back? Why are they watching this? Her usual fierce resolve buckled under the weight of her powerlessness. This wasn't just a physical threat, it was an assault on her dignity, a public desecration that made her stomach churn. A single, glistening tear skipped from her eye, trailing a hot path down her temple, a silent testament to the profound humiliation and simmering rage that now consumed her. It was a tear of shame, yes, but beneath it, a furious storm was brewing. She was trying to use all her strength but unable to move. Can't help herself. First I will taste you, then the blonde. Kaya's gaze shifted from Sakura to Ino, then back to Sakura. Let me open you up first. His hand reached for Sakura's top, fumbling for the zipper. As Kaya's hand touched Sakura's assets, a wave of sickening laughter erupted from the bandits scattered around them. Their crude jeers cut through the air, mocking the agonizing scene unfolding before them. Look at that, bossman. One bandit guffawed, his voice thick with lewd pleasure. The pink-haired one's got some prime goods. Yeah, Kaya's gonna have a field day with that one. Another sneered, spitting on the ground. Hope she screams loud for us. Don't waste all the fun on yourself, Kaya. Leave some for us. She looks tight. A pretty little healer, all tied up and ready for a good time. What a sight. She's probably been begging for it, look at her. Just waiting for a real man to show her a good time. I bet she's soft, like fresh bread. Gonna be delicious. Get a good look, boys. This is what happens when Konoha dogs try to stand up to us. Make her cry, Kaya. Make her beg for it. That strawberry milkshake is gonna be all over the place when you're done with her. The vile comments continued, a chorus of depravity that amplified Sakura's humiliation. Each word was a fresh cut, tearing at her composure, even as she remained frozen. Her face burned with shame, her insides churning with a potent mix of fear and helpless fury. Kaya, oblivious to everything but his lecherous intent, focused on the zipper of Sakura's top. Just as his fingers found the pull tab, a sudden, dark blur shot across his vision. A crow. It flew swiftly from the side, drawing the attention of every bandit and their sadistic leader. With an unsettling grace, it landed directly on Kakashi's paralyzed head, its dark eyes seemingly staring straight at Kaya. The unexpected interruption, combined with the crow's unnerving perch, clearly disturbed Kaya, momentarily pulling him away from his vile task. Just as Kaya's focus wavered, a chilling chorus began. Not just one crow, but dozens, then hundreds, their raucous caws filling the air, a cacophony that overshadowed the bandits' crude laughter. Every head, including Kaya's, snapped upwards, searching for the source of the unsettling sound. They found him perched atop the very highest tree, silhouetted against the afternoon sky. A lone, black figure, impossibly still, as a swirling vortex of crows cycled and flew around him, a living, squawking cloak. And then, as if sensing their gaze, his eyes opened. 2 points of glowing red in dark hood, like embers in the encroaching gloom, pierced the distance, fixing on the scene below. A gasp, barely audible, escaped Kakashi's paralyzed lips. His mind, trapped within his unresponsive body, screamed the only word that made sense, yet felt utterly surreal. Impossible. It's Itachi. How? The question echoed his disbelief, a silent plea for an answer in the face of the impossible. From his perch high in the tree, Itachi began to move, not physically, but with a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the air around him. One by one, the swirling crows detached themselves from his shadowy form. They descended with uncanny precision, each black bird settling silently upon a paralyzed shinobi, one perched on Lee's bowl-cut hair, another on Kiba's shoulder, a third settling gently on Akamaru's head. Crows landed on Ino's blonde ponytail, on Sakura's own pink strands, and finally, one on each of the 3 immobilized ANBU members. They sat there, still and watchful, as if silent, feathered guardians. As the last crow found its place, Itachi's figure on the treetop began to subtly distort, shimmering like heat haze. He was fading, slowly, like a ghost, his form becoming translucent against the sky. The bandits, still reeling from the sudden appearance, squinted, trying to make sense of the vanishing act. But before his image fully dissipated, a ripple in the air, so sudden it was almost a physical shockwave, occurred directly behind Kaya. Without a sound, without a whisper of displaced air, Itachi reappeared, a silent, dark specter. He stood mere inches behind the bandit leader, his red eyes now burning with an intense, unwavering glow. The original figure on the tree hadn't quite faded yet, creating a terrifying double image that would have given anyone a heart attack. Kaya, still focused on the receding form on the tree, remained utterly unaware of the deadly presence now at his back. A collective gasp, unheard by anyone but themselves, ripped through the paralyzed shinobi. Even Sakura, caught in her own personal hell, felt a jolt of pure, primal fear. The sudden, utterly soundless appearance of Itachi directly behind Kaya was a shock that transcended all logic. It was as if he had simply materialized from the air itself, a ghost made solid. His red glowing eyes, burning with an otherworldly intensity, were no longer just points of light, they were portals to a cold, inescapable reality. To Sakura, they weren't just eyes, they were the eyes of death, devoid of mercy, promising only oblivion. A terrifying chill washed over her, far colder than the fear of Kaya. Her body, already immobilized, felt a new kind of paralysis, it went completely numb and cold, a frozen terror seizing her from the inside out. The vile touch on her skin was momentarily forgotten, replaced by the bone-deep dread of this silent, impossible arrival. Time seemed to warp and distort. Every flicker of movement, every shadow, held a terrifying weight. The raucous laughter of the bandits had vanished, replaced by an absolute, suffocating silence. It was the eerie calm before a storm, or perhaps, the stillness of a predator about to strike. Everything was unfolding with such unnatural speed that their paralyzed minds struggled to keep pace, a disjointed sequence of impossible events. Kaya, his hand still near Sakura's top, noticed the sudden shift in her already wide eyes. He saw the reflection of something behind him on Sakura's eyes, something that had painted her face with a fresh wave of stark terror. His instincts, honed by years of brutal encounters, screamed danger. Whirling around with surprising speed, a kunai flashing in his hand, Kaya lunged at the space where the spectral figure stood. But the kunai passed straight through Itachi, as if he were nothing but smoke and shadow. The figure, still in the process of fading, flickered like a dying flame. Confusion and a flicker of genuine fear crossed Kaya's face. He couldn't comprehend what he had just witnessed. Was it an illusion? Some kind of trick? As the translucent image of Itachi continued to fade, finally dissolving completely into the air, a new, more tangible threat began to materialize. From the surrounding trees and shadows, a multitude of crows fly wildly, their movements swift and silent. Their intent was clear as they began to surround the 30 rough ninjas, forming a tightening noose around them. Kaya, his initial shock giving way to a grim determination, gripped his kunai tighter. His eyes darted around, assessing the growing number of enemies. He stood in a full guard, every muscle tense, ready to face whatever nightmare had just descended upon them. Even though his body was a prisoner, Kakashi's mind raced, struggling to reconcile the impossible. He knew, with absolute certainty, that Itachi was dead. He had witnessed it. Yet, the figure, the Sharingan, the chilling silence, it was all undeniably Itachi. His analytical mind grappled with the paradox: Itachi is dead. How is this happening? He was intimately familiar with Itachi's prowess in genjutsu, perhaps more than anyone. But this was different. The illusion felt real and unreal at the same time, a dizzying blend of tangible horror and ethereal impossibility. The way Kaya's kunai had passed through him, as if he were nothing but a phantom, sent a jolt of recognition and a cold dread through Kakashi. That motion, it looked like Obito's Kamui. A whirlwind of hypotheses spun in his paralyzed brain. Was it a resurrected Itachi? An Edo Tensei? Perhaps, but if so, who was the caster? Was it a new, unimaginable genjutsu, one that could affect reality to such a degree, or even create corporeal illusions? So many complex possibilities collided, making it very difficult to define whether it was real or genjutsu. His Sharingan, usually his ultimate tool for seeing through deceit, was utterly useless here. It was unable to recognize this new, terrifying form of illusion, or see beyond the veil that Itachi, or whatever this was, had cast. The chilling truth was, for the first time in a long time, Kakashi was truly bewildered, his formidable mind unable to grasp the nature of the fighting style. Kaya, his mind unable to grasp the strange occurrences, decided to revert to the familiar brutality he understood. With a guttural snarl, he moved with terrifying speed, his hand straight out to Sakura. He pressed the cold, sharp edge of his kunai to her throat, making her a pawn in his desperate game. Come out, bastard. Show yourself, or she dies. Kaya's voice ripped through the tense silence, thick with menace. I'm counting just 3. A wave of icy dread washed over the paralyzed Konoha shinobi. Their wide eyes, already filled with horror, now screamed with unspoken terror for Sakura. What would happen to her? Could this phantom Itachi save her? Kaya began his chilling countdown. 3. Nothing happened. The air hung thick and heavy, the only sound the faint, distant cawing of crows. 2. Absolute silence. Every breath seemed to stop, every muscle in the onlookers' bodies tense to the breaking point, even if they couldn't move them. The tension was a living, suffocating thing. 1. In a blink, faster than the eye could follow, a figure materialized. Not behind Kaya, not from the shadows, but directly behind Sakura, appearing right in front of Kaya's own disbelieving eyes. It was Itachi, his red eyes blazing with cold fire. There you are, bastard. Kaya erupted in a harsh, triumphant laugh, convinced he had finally cornered his elusive foe. So, you finally showed yourself, selfish bastard. You will die now. Kaya roared, his hands already moving in a rapid sequence of hand signs. But before he could complete a single one, another figure materialized behind him. This new Itachi, his glowing red eyes burning with deadly intent, moved with impossible speed. His katana, previously unseen, flashed in the dim light. Less than a blink, one single, fluid swing. Sakura felt a sudden warmth splatter across her face and clothes. It was blood. Kaya's severed head, his expression still twisted in a snarl, tumbled to the ground with a sickening thud. His body remained standing for a horrifying moment, blood oozing out like a fountain from the gaping wound where his neck had been. The severed throat gurgled and sputtered, a gruesome symphony of death that sent another wave of terror through Sakura. The blood from Kaya's neck sprayed outwards, coating Sakura's face and clothes in a crimson film. The coppery scent filled her nostrils, a stark reminder of the brutal violence that had just unfolded before her eyes. But this Itachi wasn't finished. With a guttural roar that seemed to echo from the depths of his soul, he swung his katana again, a brutal, savage arc that carved through Kaya's torso. Blood erupted, painting the forest floor crimson, and pieces of flesh and bone scattered amongst the fallen leaves. The severed flesh was still shaking violently. The other bandits recoiled in horror, their earlier confidence dissolving into primal fear. One of the rough ninja, his eyes wide with terror, stumbled backward, his voice a choked whisper. Run. It's the killer ghost of the leaf. In the next instant, the air around Itachi shimmered once more, and dozens, no, 60, identical figures materialized from the crows. They moved with lightning speed, a silent, coordinated net descending upon the remaining 30 terrified bandits. In mere seconds, every single one of the rough ninja was subdued, expertly restrained by the overwhelming force of the clones. Itachi, the one with the dark hood, stood amidst the carnage, his katana dripping crimson. The clones dispersed, securing their prisoners. The other paralyzed Konoha shinobi stared in stunned silence. Captain, one of the other ANBUand managed to croak out, his voice still stiff from the paralysis. You did it. A collective murmur of awe and relief rippled through the trapped ANBUand operatives. Sakura stared, her emerald eyes wide with a horror that transcended the immediate threat. Her face, splattered with Kaya's warm blood, felt cold and clammy. The sight of his dismembered body, the grotesque gurgling sound it made, had pushed her to the brink. Her entire body trembled uncontrollably, a deep, internal shudder that had nothing to do with the paralysis and everything to do with the visceral terror she was experiencing. The swift, brutal efficiency of the kill, the sheer, visceral violence of the final swing, it was a scene etched in blood and shock, unlike anything she had ever witnessed. This wasn't the clean, precise strikes of a typical shinobi battle. It was raw, unrestrained fury. The sheer savagery of the act sent a profound shiver down her spine, a primal fear mixed with a dawning, unsettling recognition. This Itachi, whether real or illusion, was a force of pure, terrifying destruction, far beyond anything she had ever imagined. The blood on her face, still wet and sticky, was a horrifying testament to the nightmare she had just endured.